Buenos nachos, and welcome to another edition of the Major League Minor Show. The only show like it in the world covering semi-pro football. A show that's not hosted by some left-wing wacko or some fake news organization. I'm your host. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channel at Major League Minor Shows. Week 3 was a mix of close games and some blowouts. The PAFA saw minimal change in the rankings, while the NPFL had a huge shocker and some great matchups. All this including scores, rankings, predictions, and highlights with Chisel Adonis right after these messages.
Light them up again, baby.
Light them up, baby! Light them up!
This week in the PAFA, the Lawton Savages were looking for its second win of the season, traveling up to OKC again. This time, the winless OKC Bulls. The Bulls found their mojo and won by a score of 38-13. Up in Enid, it was a one-side affair as the Kansas Cougars, for the second week in a row, pulled off a huge margin of victory over the Enforcers by a score of 39-2. Finally, our game of the week was live streamed by our partners by the Springdale Sports Network. We saw the NWA battle coming off of its heavily favored game against the Joplin Crusaders last week, which ended up in a tie, but now facing off against the #1 Tri-City Panthers. A tight game till the end, but the Panthers outshined the battle by 1 point by a score of 13-12. For more on last week's games, we send it off to the Hold My Nuggets Studios in New York for your highlights with Chisel Adonis.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your Week 3 PAFA game highlight commentary and a rematch of last year's championship between the Tri-City Panthers and the Northwest Arkansas Battle. And get law enforcement and Peter on the phone because Kristen Case may have just killed a Panther. That man has a family, but he's sitting there with broken ribs. Get the defibrillator, call the EMTs, get the medic. That man needs to be revived. Out in Lawton, the Savages aren't looking too savage as Giovanni Knight gets a phone call from a telemarketer selling QB boots. He buys a pair, puts it on, and runs it right into the end zone to get the Oklahoma City Bulls on the board. Meanwhile, in Enid, after a Cougars field goal, they're set to kick the ball back to the Enforcers and D'Angelo Williams waiting at the 1-yard line. He opens up his Devin Hester starter pack and he's off to the races. But it's a bootleg. He bought it from Toys R Us. It doesn't come with the outrun the kicker option. He's going to be pushed out of bounds at the 26-yard line. Hey, Frederick Lawrence, who's your favorite quarterback? Russell Wilson. Why is that? Because we both throw interceptions when we should have ran the ball inside the 5-yard line. As the ball is picked off by the Kansas Cougars and being returned all the way to the 43-yard line. Somewhere in the world, Marshawn Lynch is laughing. Somebody tell me why. Why won't they run the ball? For the Panthers, Garrett Griffiths takes over at quarterback and he's able to find Winston Holder, who disregards the tackle of one defender, and he's off to the races down the right sideline and he's going to be pushed out of bounds. And that would set up Garrett Griffiths dialing voicemail because he's calling his own number as he takes off running down the left sideline and dives into the end zone for a Tri-City Panther touchdown. Unfortunately, the extra point would be no good because the kicker graduated from Nick Folk University. Back to Lawton we go. Following a Savages score, they're kicking the ball off deep to the Bulls. It's going to be returned by Alvin Smith, who takes it at the 20-yard line, makes a couple of moves, and he's off to the races down the left sideline. But his hopes of going to the end zone ends up much like working for Snow White. He came up short. He's going to be down at the 1-yard line. But much like Harvey Weinstein, the Bulls refuse to be denied as they continue to savagely beat the Savages and run it into the end zone for another score. Back in Enid, the Enforcers failed to enforce their defense as the Kansas Cougars find their way into the end zone. But the celebration of the touchdown would be short-lived as the extra point is blocked by D'Angelo Williams, and he picks it up and says, I don't need the Devin Hester starter pack on kickoffs because I got the Ed Reed starter pack on defense, as he returns the ball all the way into the end zone for a 2-point safety. Garrett Griffith takes the snap for the Panthers. He's standing in the pocket trying to find his man. He's got Deion Watkins. Did you eat before the game? Nah, I didn't. How about you have some Atana stew with shoulder pad. For the Lawton Savages, the disappointment has not stopped as the quarterback's absolutely destroyed in the backfield, but at least he completed a pass to the other team as it's returned to the 42-yard line. But the Bulls are not done ramming it up the arse of the Lawton Savages as Tim Harley Jr. gets the handoff and fights his way into the end zone for an Oklahoma City Bulls touchdown. However, on the extra point, the kick is going to be blocked. Is it going to be returned just like what happened in the Enid Enforcers game? Absolutely not! Get on the floor, dummy! Speaking of the Enforcers, the ball goes flying through the hands of Frederick Lawrence and bounces into the end zone, and it's going to be pushed out of bounds for a Kansas Cougars safety. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the Marcel Miller Show. This man has been destroying defensive backs all season long. Legend has it, he's cold when he goes to sleep at night because you can't even cover him with a comforter. Touchdown Panthers. The Oklahoma City Bulls may have seen red on the sideline because their defense is non-existent and the Savages look to take advantage as they got a man as wide open as a Kardashian's legs during Black History Month running into the end zone to get the Savages on the board. But their momentum would be short-lived as the Oklahoma City Bulls respond with an aerial assault that make the United States Air Force happy. Touchdown Bulls. If the Enid Enforcers were releasing condoms, I would never buy them. They can't prevent a touchdown. How the hell are they going to prevent a pregnancy? Then again, they can't catch a football. Who's to say they'll catch an STD? The Enid Enforcers, good for sex, bad for football. A pair of touchdowns for the Cougars. Here come the Northwest Arkansas battle as Braden Cook gets the reception, but he's coughing up the ball. As he fumbles on the play, it's picked up by Lane Freeman of the Tri-City Panthers, and he's gonna be down. But wait, it must be Groundhog's Day because this happened last week against the Crusaders. Braden Cook fumbled on the play and it led to a touchdown. What's Braden Cook cooking? I know, it's Butterfingers. The Panthers look to capitalize on the turnover, but Michael Weber must have been eating dinner with Braden Cook before the game because he's got Butterfingers, and it's recovered by Tanner Stewart. Battle ball. And just when you thought Butterfingers was only being eaten by the Panthers in the battle, it's made its way to the Savages as they fumble on the play and it's recovered by the Bulls and returned inside the 5-yard line. And the Bulls pay a visit to the football embassy and turn their turnover into points. And the Kansas Cougars continue to abuse the Enid Enforcers. Ladies and gentlemen, MC Hammer.
Can't touch this. Can't touch this.
Braden Cook would make up for his early fumble as he's found in the end zone for a Northwest Arkansas battle touchdown. But the extra point fails. They trail 13-6. We head out to Enid to check on the Enforcers offense, and yup, their hands are just for decoration. Don't blink. The Enforcers went to the pastry shop and bought a couple apple turnovers right next to McDonald's. Can I get a McPick-6? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. The Cougars run this shit. Touchdown Kansas. Griffith standing in the pocket. He's off to the races. He sure does like to run a lot. I've had enough, says Christopher Scott. And at this point, the Kansas Cougars are engaging in necrophilia because the Enforcers may be dead, but they're still getting fucked. Final score 39-2. Less than 1 minute to go, down by 7 points. The battle desperately need a touchdown in order to get back into this game. Davon Neal catches the ball out the backfield, makes one Panther miss, stays on his feet, and brings the ball inside the 10-yard line. 52 seconds left to play. Jess Brown takes the snap, pump fakes the camera, takes off running. He's gonna dive towards the end zone, and he gets in for a battle touchdown. Down by 1 point. Do they kick the extra point to go to overtime? No, they choose to go for the win. Brown takes the snap, gives it to Neal, back to Cook, but he's gonna be stopped by Joshua Moore. 1 yard short. The Panthers are gonna win, and Joshua Moore says that's one more W in the Panthers column. For the Savages, the battle and the Enforcers. Take out your money, pay your fare, and get aboard the L train.
Always entertaining to watch. You can catch Chiseled Adonis on his Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or of course his YouTube channel at Chiseled Adonis. You have to see his other commentary. It's hilarious. Speaking of comments, that brings us to this week's Players of the Week. Players of the Week awards are brought to you by Images and Tile, custom murals in your home or office. What better way to capture your glory years with a mural of yourself? Contact them at imagesandtile.com. Our Offensive Player of the Week goes to Tri-City Panthers wideout Marcel Miller. Miller, coming off of a huge win against the Battle, he has recorded 5 touchdowns with 11 receptions and 287 total yards in just 3 games. Now our Defensive Player of the Week goes also to a Panther, strong safety Lane Freeman. He's recorded 20 tackles, 15 of those solo, 5 assists, along with a forced fumble. Congratulations to our Images and Tile Players of the Week. And that'll take us to this week's matchups and predictions brought to you by T-Lake Apparel Company. For all your uniform and merchandising needs, contact our friends at T-Lake and also ask about the Major League Minor discount. Our first game is the lock of the week. This first game is going to be the Lawton Savages taking on the Enid Enforcers in Enid. The Savages are hungry. They're really hungry for their first actual win and to possibly put it into the win column, but the Enforcers have other plans. And I see the Enforcers bouncing off from an ugly loss last week against the Kansas Cougars and defeating the Savages by a score of 21-7. Next, we'll see the Kansas Cougars travel down to OKC to face off against the Bulls. The Bulls, coming off of a huge win last week, have their confidence really high, and they're going to take on the Kansas Cougars. But I think the Kansas Cougars are going to show their dominance, and I think they'll win by a score of 42-14. Our next game will be one that will decide momentum going into the Easter League bye week as the NWA Battle hit the road and square off against the OKC Jaguars. This is going to be a really big game. It has a lot of significance to it, and it will be live streamed by our partners again at the Springdale Sports Network. Be sure to catch all the hard-hitting action. This should be a really close game. You can see it on Facebook or go to their Facebook or even their city link to Springdale Sports Network. I think this one will come down to the final minute again, but I give the edge to the Jaguars, standing tall at home by a score of 28-21. That brings us to our game of the week. This will be a dogfight. This is going to be a great game between the Joplin Crusaders and the Tri-City Panthers. We've been waiting all year for these two to meet up. And again, another game that should come down to the wire, but I have to go with the home field advantage as the Panthers will continue their winning streak with a score of 21-17. We'll be right back to talk about the NPFL right after this.
Here at Lightning Bell Bonds, we care about you and we will fight for you. We understand you are facing a difficult situation. You need someone like us on your side. We are courteous, detailed, and understanding. That's why we are Oklahoma's #1 choice for bail bonds. Being upfront and honest about everything is one thing we do here at Lightning Bell Bonds. Tell you straight how it is, and that way we can keep an honest relationship and be on the same page at all times. Give us a call today. My name is Ryan Gallimore, Lightning Bell Bonds, your first call to a brighter future.
This week in the NPFL was exciting. Some great wins, ugly blowouts, and a surprise defeat. With that, let's go right to the scores and rankings brought to you by our friends at Developmental Football USA. The surprise of the week was the Texas War Eagles as they shocked the Texas Bullets by a score of 15-14. Congratulations to the War Eagles. That was completely unexpected. Next, the Vipers came away with a narrow victory by defeating the DeSoto Tarantulas by a score of 20-16. The Stampede continued its winning ways by defeating the Rhinos, the Denton County Rhinos, 20-12. Then it was the West Texas Pride flexing its muscles with a win 61-6 over the Outlaws. The Raptors finding some continuity and getting another win against the Mustangs by a score of 38-6. And way out in New Mexico, the Otero Desert Dogs put down the Reapers with a score of 27-21. Now that brings us to this week's matchups and predictions brought to you by Recon Security Services. This week we're going to see the West Texas Pride take on the Lubbock Liberty Eagles in a tight game. I have to give this one home field advantage by 3 points to the Lubbock Liberty Eagles by a score of 14-17. The next game that we're going to see is going to be a blowout in my prediction. I think the West Texas Lions are going to travel to Amarillo and put it down with a score of 31-6. Speaking of blowouts, this one is a no-brainer for me. The Austin Vipers are going to cream the Mustangs. My prediction, 63-0. Now the Rhinos, I think they're going to bounce back and beat the Metroplex Pride by a score of 17-6. And then the Desert Dogs continue their winning streak by defeating the Drillers by a score of 21-17. The rain, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to rein it in this week. I think the fuel from the North Texas Stampede are going to beat this one real easy, 28-6. And then finally, the last game, the Dallas Vikings are going to have a close one against the shocked Texas Bullets. I think they're going to come into this one. I think they're going to win this one. They're going to continue on. They're going to push on. The Texas Bullets, still watch out for those guys. Now, for more in the NPFL, we're going to send it off to the NPFL former commissioner, now CEO, J.C. Kimmey.
Thanks again for having me, Chris. I wanted to take this time to address our level of football and the state of it as we know it and why it is potentially changing for the better. This not only affects the NPFL, but the PAFA as well, and any other adult tackle, full contact, minor league, semi-pro organization that is out there. I know that many of you have seen in the news how in the next couple of years we're going to have 2 professional spring leagues that are going to come on to the scene. And this is good for us because it does create more jobs. The nature of football is changing in that high school participation around the nation is down 10%. That's right, 10%. That is a big number. Some parents don't let their kids play football. A lot of guys who played football don't let their sons play football. But there still are those of us out there who do play the game, and certainly these colleges at every level are not disbanding their programs. Now, when you talk about a drop of 10% in terms of the number of players entering into the college recruiting world, the larger schools, the state schools, the big D1 schools, are always going to get their guys. There's always going to be guys lining up to come and ply their craft at these larger schools. That's not a problem. Where the deficiency takes hold is in kind of a domino effect down to the lower reaches of Division II, Division III, and NAIA, as well as the junior colleges, football programs that are out there as well. They are the ones that are seeing the drop-off. Now, you cannot go back and create a new 10%, or i.e. make more 17-year-olds that weren't playing play. We know that's a physical impossibility. The only way to fill those numbers out based on what they were and what they are is to go and dip back into the 18, 19, 20-year-old guys that have, quote-unquote, fallen through the cracks or circumstances have prevented them from pursuing their career the traditional college route. That means us. That means our level of football is going to be a proving ground for those who wish to continue their football careers in terms of getting an education for them, or perhaps on a professional level. It is changing, ladies and gentlemen, and it's changing for the better. You players out there, particularly you young guys, 18, 19, 20, 21, even 22, the age for football players, the average age is going up. And that's for the better. At the professional ranks, the average player only has a 3 to 4 year life expectancy anyway. What's the difference if it's 24, 25, 26, or 21, 22, 23, and 24? There is none. As a matter of fact, more mature football players are further along in their brute strength phase and also are usually more developed as citizens. You guys think about this. Be sure to log on to www.thenpfl.com for listings, complete listings of all games in your area, as well as stats and team websites. If you have a chance to get out to an NPFL game this weekend or a PAFA game, enjoy yourself. Have a fantastic weekend. I am J.C. Kimmey, NPFL CEO. Thanks again for having me on, Chris.
Well, that's our show, folks. Tune in 2 weeks, as next week we're going to have our Easter week bye. But join us again here in 2 weeks as we tackle the headlines, scores, predictions, and everything in between the PFA and the NPFL on the next Major League Minor show.